Talking about the sports show, time to turn our attention to the cars, mate. We
love the cars.
We do.
Yeah, love the cars.
Of course, the 60th year anniversary of Malala. So there's going to be a lot of stories. So we thought the man that knows more about Malala and the Bend than anyone, of course, is the General Manager, Business Development down there at the Bend, Mark Warren. Mark, how are you?
I'm pretty bloody good. Thanks, Phil.
I would imagine you would be, mate. So it is 60 years, is a long time, a lot of history, mate. So tell us a little bit about the celebrations that are going to go on down at Malala.
Oh, it's going to be a huge set of celebrations. I mean, I liken it to having someone who's just turning 60, and you've got all the stories that you want to tell about that person's life, and so that's what we're trying to get out there and tell the stories of Malala and its 60 years of motorsport. But it's also the birthday party we're going to throw, which is on the 28th and 29th of August. So we're very much looking forward to having the big party as well and getting everyone to come out who's ever had anything to do with Malala.
You're telling a lot of stories, 60 years, which is well put. That place would have so many great stories, Malala, from 60 years, but just going back through the site and having a look at it all and some of the stuff you sent me, it's staggering what Malala has done, really, in that 60 years.
There's very few circuits that have survived the test of time, and this is a story of survival. When you go back, in 1961 is when it was established, and it came about because back in 1959, CAMS decided, no, Port Wakefield circuit, no good, can't have the Australian Grand Prix there, you can't have the Australian Grand Prix in South Australia, which is pretty relevant for people who've got long memories of the Grand Prix that we've had here in South Australia. So we had to build a new circuit, and that's where Malala came about, and it used to be an old RAF base. The 24th Squadron was out there, and so it was perfect because there was lots of tarmac and so on, and they could create a circuit out there. And ever since then, there's been some very passionate people who have just driven the whole spirit of motorsport out at Malala.
You have to be pretty passionate at the start to get it across the line in 1959, I would have thought, then to build it by 1961 because the Grand Prix was coming, the first one here. Mate, they shortened the track. It went from 3.4 kilometres down to, I've got to look at my notes here, mate, 2.6 in 1964.
Correct.
And I was going to ask you about the one out at the Bend, and I don't want to shift the focus too much onto the Bend, but
sure,
that track's a 7.7 kilometre track. Yeah. So when we come back to Malala for this weekend, the smaller track, it's going to be interesting for the drivers that get out and have a rip around it, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you, if you ask any of the supercar drivers that were there back in the day, they loved Malala as a track, only 2.6 kilometres, but there was fantastic overtaking that was going on there. And back in the Australian Touring Car Championship, it just seems to have something special with the way that the corners are put together, which is great racing. And so I think anyone that's raced there loves the fact that you can actually go door to door, side by side, and actually get a win.
What's been the response, Mark, with the celebrations? What's been the response from drivers, from just from racing people in general? Are you happy with it?
Oh, absolutely. Again, we're discovering new things all the time. Everything from, it was actually the place where Godzilla, the Nissan GTR, debuted back in 1990 with Mark Scaife driving it. And so you think about some of these names that are in motorsport, and some of the GTR went on to win Bathurst in '92, and everyone hated and lamented it. People love those stories now. But Mark Scaife went off and had to retire the car back at Malala in 1990, and Jim Richards could have been put into that car, but Fred Gibson, he decided no. He's vying for the championship, so let's put Mark Scaife into there, who was just a rookie at that stage.
Yeah.
And then Brocky went on to win that race. So there's just so many stories in history about what went on there.
I mean, let's have a look at some of the events that are going to occur. I want to ask you about them. The Malala Masters race.
Yes.
What's going to happen there?
So the Masters race, it's really about inviting people who've got all sorts of different cars. So we're calling it a combined sedans type category. So it can be a multitude of historic sedan race cars that can all participate in this race to try and take out that final Malala Masters, and it's kind of like the trophy at the end to say, I'm the master of Malala. But we've also got Super Sprint race, so that's a race against the clock,
is it?
Exactly, it's a race against the clock. So it's not side-by-side door racing, it's literally the trying to set the fastest time. So it's a sprint race. And so that for those people who've got some pretty special cars from back in the day, who perhaps don't want to be banging doors, they can actually still get out there and have a real red hot go and see them at speed.
Wow. Hey mate, I saw on the website you've got an open track. So, I come in my Mazda CX-5 and I feel embarrassed because the Porsches are out there or the Ferraris. Is there a chance that I can take my car out and have a drive around the track, or is it just you've got to have a car that can
Sure,
go?
if you want to embarrass yourself in your C5, that's absolutely fine. I'm not sure that you'll set the
But you
world
know
on
how
fire.
I've seen you drive.
I'm already embarrassed here. It's a good point, but it's more the moment to say I had a drive on the track, because this is not going to happen all the time.
No.
So it's kind of that one-off event where you get that. It's the one where someone says, I wish I had been at that game.
Yes.
Or I should have taken my car out on the track. I'm saying, I don't mind being embarrassed, because I want to say I went out and had a drive on the track, because otherwise it may never happen.
Well, and particularly at such a significant event, normally you don't get open track sessions on a race day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like going out onto the footy and kicking the footy when you're at the grand final, for example. It doesn't really happen unless you're a really lucky someone that gets to do that. So same here, being able to actually take a track session, and it doesn't matter what the car is, and there'll be people who come and just do a cruise lap. They won't go at speed, just to be part of it. And that's what we're encouraging people to come out, be part of the party, be part of the celebration.
Hey, mate, I know it's a big day for the cars, but there's also an air display.
Yeah, exactly.
Has that got something to, is that linked back to the squadron that was there?
It is. So it's actually the 100th, well, it's the centenary for the RAAF. So they've got a lot of celebrations going on. So coincidentally, our 60th anniversary, their 100th. And so we're going to have lots of displays from the SA Aviation Museum, and even down to an old radial engine that they go start up and things like that, just to create a bit of interest around the place. And so people can see the history of what Malala was as a 24 Squadron base, to right through to becoming a racetrack. So it just kind of ties in that nice history of the place.
Are you having a drive around the track, mate?
I always have a drive around
What are
the
you
track.
driving?
What do I drive? I've got multiple cars, so
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
chosen what I'm driving yet.
Well, I'm not going to drive a Mazda, I'm borrowing one of Mark's cars.
Well, actually,
I've actually got a
been around the
Mazda. I've
track,
got an RX-7.
RX-7, mate, there we go.
Series 8, one of the last of the
Is there a
twin turbos.
favourite for you? Sometimes you go on, and I know there's probably a lot. There's probably a lot of cars that you love, but sometimes there's one. Is it an E-Type Jag, or when you get back to the classic cars that may turn up, is there a favourite for you?
You're asking me to choose what my favourite child is, so I'm not sure
Give me
that
your
I
top
can.
three. Give me your top three.
So top three. All right. Well, so I love the Brock Commodores because I'm probably more of a Holden man than a Ford man. I can respect the Ford Mustangs of the day though. So I actually own a 68 Mercury Cougar as well, which is my cruise car.
Yep.
But I also love the JDM stuff. So all the Japanese. So I've got both a Toyota Supra RZ, and also the RX-7. So I like an eclectic mix of stuff. So no single favourite. I love the car to drive.
Can we get onto the bend for a minute? Thank
Sure,
you, Bill.
let's talk about the bend.
Champion.
Let's talk about the bend.
Because that's a world-class facility. That's why I like to talk about it. But I love this bit here. I love the El Wample. This what got me.
The El Wample.
I love the El Wample.
All the research you've done leading to Mark coming up here, you've come with the El Wample.
Well,
Sorry, mate.
That's all right.
He's at his best, mate.
That jumped out at me. That originally the track was in the El Wample zone. So they rezoned the area so that it would fit into Tail and Bend. Now, I've got some very great friends from El Wample who are a little bit grumpy about that. No, I'm only joking. But why would they do that? I mean, I know that Tail and Bend is a good spot and good name and all that. But is it because it's very hard to promote, let's go to El Wample on the weekend?
Well, I'll tell you the story. So it's a good question to ask. When you've got such a long circuit, you mentioned it, 7.77 kilometres. I mean, it's actually the second longest permanent racetrack in the world, and certainly the longest in the Southern Hemisphere. So when you've got such a long racetrack, you're going into multiple postcodes, right? So no, that's too hard. So we need to have it in one postcode. So we made sure we put it all into Tail and Bend, and hence we're the Bend Motorsport Park. So bit of the background for you.
And it's a fantastic facility because it's not only has it got the motor racing itself, but there is so much to do.
You have to go and see the museum.
I'm
learning. We had a quick chat off air on becoming a bit of a motorhead, but I went out with my partner to have a look at the museum, and driving out there I'm going, so it's going to be a museum. I'm driving at the car museum. I was blown away. I'm telling anyone, I know I don't have to sell it to you, Mark, but you need to go and see it. If you haven't been out there, it will be one of the great adventures, and you'll walk back going, wow,
well, there's so much to do.
It's one of the best in the world. I'm not talking about one of the best here in Australia. This is one of the best car museums in the world. Do you think that's fair, Mark?
Absolutely. And we built the place to be that.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about coming out to see it, Father's Day is coming up, looking for something to do for Father's Day, come out because that's when we've got the Bend Classic. We have really all these classic Formula One cars actually out on the track, screaming down the main straight. Lots of historic sports sedans and you name it. plus get out there and do some hot laps. So hopefully you two can come up and do a hot lap.
They
one
get
of
you
our
in the
Mustangs.
Mustang, don't you? Now we go in the Mustang, mate. Not the
Yeah.
1968 Mustang either, is it? And it gets around pretty quick, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So
Yeah,
we have Mustangs and also some Holden race cars. People can come out, do hot laps, actually drive them if they want to have a drive. So I don't know what your steering technique is like, but we can possibly get you in there to have a steer as well if you want.
Right.
You know,
All right.
I've done a lot of auctions in my time, Mark, where a hot lap will come up at the Grand Prix or the hot lap here or wherever. I tell the people in the audience, if there's one thing that you should be bidding on tonight, it's that is a hot lap, because I've done a couple. I did a couple with Jim Richards, and it is easily one of the most spectacular things that I've ever done. And you know, I've done a bit. I've been around.
Yep.
I'm 130 years old. I've done a little
You're
bit.
a cricketer,
have
mate.
your
You're
end
round
of it.
between the wickets.
But that is one of the most thrilling things that I've ever done, and I urge people to bid on it and get it and do it, because it's an amazing thing to do. In fact, Mark, when I first went out with Jim the very first time, he was herring down the main straight and came to the sweeping bend. And when he got to that bend, I thought, how's my luck here? I'm with one of the best drivers in the world, and he's made his first mistake ever. He's not going to make this bend. This is not going to happen. We are gone here. And next minute, boom, you're gone. And then you're doing 280 or whatever you're doing, and you're sitting in the passenger side, and you're that far from the fence. It's like you're sitting there going, I remember him saying to me, don't worry about the white knuckles. Don't worry about the white knuckles, because everybody, when they first do it, has the white knuckles.
Oh, that's a relief.
on.
He was talking about yours, not his.
That's
a relief, mate.
Not his.
Everyone
Well,
thinks that they're going to be fine in the car, and they are, but it's an experience, like you say. The G-forces that you pull through the corner.
incredible.
And exactly what you describe in terms of pulling up under brakes, that's the thing that really just gets you.
incredible.
How can he possibly stop on a dime like they do?
What's the fastest you gone around the track in? What's the fastest car you've been on the track? Mate?
That I've been personally
Yeah,
in
on
the
the
track?
track.
Well, actually, the fastest thing that's on the track are the super bikes, and they get up to 300 k's per hour on the
No,
main
I'm sticking in the
straight.
car, mate. I'm staying in the car. Have you been
We
on
can
the
get you on the
super
back of a super bike if you like. We can give you a
No,
pillow.
I'll go with the car, mate. I'm happy with the car. I'm bringing the whole clan too, mate. I'm taking Father's Day. What was the date again?
The 4th and 5th of September.
4th and 5th of September. I'm out there. You need to be out there. I'm definitely going. I'm taking the girls. I'm going to put my girls in fast lap car too, mate. I reckon
Love
they
it.
need to experience.
Fantastic.
Hey,
Love
Mark, I know you're a busy man. Really appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
Get down to Malala. It is going to be spectacular. 60-year anniversary. Then I'll see you down there for the fast lap in the next month or so. Okay, Mark Warren, our special guest. Back with more in a moment.